So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're doing a very short video. I don't know if that's true.
I'm not sure short and video are in our lexicon.
You know what? We're going to try. This is it, right? I've had a lot of people, and I think you have too, compare these two games. So we have today Europa Universalis, The Price of Power from EG Games, and we have Here I Stand by GMT Games. Here I Stand has been around for a while, had a number of iterations and editions. This is a big 6-player war game, as we'll just call it, on the Wars of the Reformation. You actually have the religious war, there's a lot of diplomacy and alliance making, it's a CDG, you have military campaigns, all this good stuff in it, right? Yeah. If you've played this, you kind of know what we're talking about. Europa Universalis has all of that too, although the religious side of it is slightly different.
There is religion in it, but
it's a little bit more simplified. Yeah. But this is a huge civ building 4X game. This starts in 1444, this starts in 1517. This one goes, if you have the expansion, or the deluxe edition,
1800,
all the way up to 1820, yeah.
There you go.
This one does not. This goes to 1555. But a lot of people have been saying, hey, this game replaces this game for me, or they're like comparing the two. And so we just thought it'd be funny, just as, not funny, but like just to sit down and answer some of those questions.
Sure.
Because if you've heard some of that, what does that mean? If you've only ever played one of these, or you played none of them, what does that look like? So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences, similarities, and how that stacks up. So let's start with Here I Stand.
Okay.
Here I Stand, we've played a few times.
And together we've played 4 times.
Yes.
You've played on Vassal at least one other time.
If you have a group of people, you can play this in one day. It'll be all day.
It'll be one 8 to 12 hour day.
Yeah, you can, but you can do it.
Yep.
Europa Universalis takes 3 times as long as that.
At least 3 days.
At least. Like, if you're experienced, it's going to be that.
Now, I've heard some people, as I've read on Twitter, they've gotten this down to where they feel like an age is somewhere between 7 and 8 hours. So if you're doing a 4-age game, you're still talking about 3 days.
Yeah.
But they said they're able to get it done quicker because everybody understands what they're doing. Maybe some of the strategies become a little more apparent. This game, 8 to 12 hours, you're going to get it wrapped up.
Yes.
It doesn't go any longer than 7 turns.
No.
More often than not, I think every time we've played, it's been decided by turn 5 at the latest, maybe 6.
Typically, it's around that 6 area.
I would love to be in a game where it went to 7 and just kind of see
that would be a very tense game. That's
to see what the group makeup is and how the different strategies went.
But that's kind of right off the bat is the game length, right?
Yeah, a day, multiple days.
Yes. Now, this is...
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's just...
If you want to know have the group that want to do this, a 2 or 3 day game, that's fine. It's doable.
Yes. So, second is kind of like the time period. So this is 1517 to 1555. It's that's still a long time. I get it.
Almost.
But this is a much more focused period of history. This goes from 1444... all the way to 1820, if you have the expansion. That is a very, very long period of time. And
you're talking 400 years versus 40 years, right?
And the length of time, whilst that's impressive, like if you think how far civilization progressed and like technology and culture, this is an extremely wide range of things, right? Here, you're still fighting with the same weapons as you were at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Here, you're not. So the scope of this game is significantly broader.
Yeah.
The focus to me in EU is about building and growing your civilization. The focus in this is that's part of it. Whereas here, each of the different factions has their own extra ways they can get victory points through things like the religious conflict,
very asymmetric,
or piracy, or
discovering the new world,
getting an heir, building chateaus, right? And those are a bit more straightforward. I'm trying to do my kind of military conquest and growth, and then I'm trying to do this one thing, and that's more of what this is. Whereas EU is like, yeah, you have your deck of mission cards that are specific for your stuff. Most of those are get and take these areas. And so this is about growth and
Yeah.
development, and you get prestige from winning power struggles, by being big on the map, by fulfilling all of your ideas and different missions that the game sets
Yeah.
out. This is a much bigger, broader scope from all of those standpoints. And then this is a traditional CDG, is what I would say. Cards, you get a hand of cards, they have events, and they have ops on them, and you spend your ops on a little menu. Whereas Europa Universalis, the engine of this game is your... I mean, there's like 3 engines, right?
Right, the monarch powers.
The monarch powers is your action economy.
Your coins.
Is your economy.
Your money economy.
And then you have a hand of cards, which you don't...
Summer events.
You spend your actions and your money to trigger them to do things.
Yeah.
This is much more Euro mechanics in that way.
This has a kind of an engine building feel to it.
Yes.
Because you're trying to build your row of advisors and leaders and generals that can give you more resources, that allow you to do more actions, spread out. You're building your trade network to get more coins.
The more towns you have out, the larger your tax income, the more manpower you have, the bigger your armies, the bigger conquesting, all of that good stuff.
Whereas Here I Stand, you're still doing some of that. Ultimately, your economy is your cards, right?
And
your
hand
of cards
through getting your keys out.
Yep, it's very asymmetric. I think the Habsburgs, who I played as, started with 6 cards, and everybody else was 3 to 4. I have the ability to get cards a little easier, but I have to conquer some areas and go into the new world. Everybody's different, and it's about that. That's your economy. Getting those cards, using those cards, and then trying to diplome your way to what you need and what you want that benefits you. This also, I think, has diplomacy. So we switch from the economy. This one, I think, will have some diplomacy, but it becomes later in the game.
Yes.
Here I Stand, from the get-go.
Turn 1.
You have major diplomatic issues to discuss with your adjacent powers and allies or enemies to try to understand how you're going to go about building your victory.
I'm pretty sure
from the get-go,
at the beginning of the game, everyone is at war with
somebody,
except for the Ottomans, who aren't technically.
They have to take over Budapest and then Belgrade and Buda.
And then England aren't, but they will be very quickly.
Yes, they're going to attack Scotland or come across the Channel.
But the game starts you're all up in each other's business immediately, and you're thrown right into the action.
Yeah.
And you have to make decisions instantly.
Very quickly.
Whereas EU, you start at the beginning.
There's a buffer.
Yeah, there's a large buffer of negative space, which is filled with the non-player realms.
Yep.
And you can beat up on them and vassalize them and take them over, and you've got time, and you can kind of gauge, hey, they're growing that way, maybe we won't interfere with each other that much, or hey, we're going together at this point.
Yeah.
Let's have a little chat about this. But you got time to see that coming and to make some overtures, and so the action here is much faster
and immediate.
Yeah, much more immediate.
Yeah. The other thing I think I want to compare about the games, the way you use your cards completely different.
Yes.
Here it's driving everything you're doing, called a card-driven game. You're either taking the events for a big splash, or you're using the op points for minor actions off a menu, like you said. Here the cards are very different. They're a resource. You never really have more than 2 or 3 of them.
Yes.
They're kind of unique. They have some events on them. You have to pay to use those events. And they're very costly. Some of them were very costly.
And they are effectively just a different action.
It's a way to do one of your actions a little more efficiently. You can do a vassal without going through a couple of the steps. Whereas doing it the other way, you got to build an alliance, and then you want to put a marriage down because that's going to benefit you. And then you can become a vassal. With that event, sometimes you can just forge an alliance or forge a marriage, and
But
and that's good.
No one's like, you know, in this game, it's like, hey, I got this event that totally hoses you.
Yeah.
There's very little of that in this one from the cards standpoint.
Right.
It's always like, oh, I can build this extra thing, or I can circumvent this rule to my benefit.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the, in my opinion, the greatest differences in the game, though, is the cards. The cards here really work well. The cards here, to me, felt like they were a little tacked on and they just made things a little easier in some ways.
They're an auxiliary to the stuff you're doing.
Right.
Here, it's the stuff you're doing.
It's central
is your
to
cards,
what you're doing.
right? That's everything that you are and can do. If you have a bad hand, you will not do well. If you have a bad hand in this, you can just do your other regular actions, no big deal.
It's going to take you a little longer, but you can still do them. So the premise of this video was, how do these compare? I hope we've helped you see how they compare. One thing I do really like about this game, I really wish we could pimp out this one like this one is pimped out.
Yes, that is not an unfair statement. This game is stunning to look at and play with.
Well, and so is Here I Stand. It's just in a different way.
Yeah, you know.
It's just in a different way.
In its cute little mid-2000s way.
Yeah, I just wish maybe they could deluxify this and make it more like this.
I would pay however much this was.
This was $230, I think.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I would probably.
But that had everything.
I would pay a similar amount of that to get this to look like that.
Sure.
I don't think that's an unfair statement.
I agree.
Because that's the reality of this. I've heard people say this kills this or the other way around.
I do not agree with that.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
I don't have the gumption to play this for 3 days.
Right.
Whereas I can play this in 1 day.
Yep.
And it's glorious every time. I've never had a bad time like this.
I would say one thing, and I think both games have another comparison. If you have a player who's less experienced or bad, it can really change the course of the game.
Yeah.
I think in this as well as in this.
Yes.
And we've played Here I Stand with some bad players. We've played with some that just didn't know what they were doing. And it really changes the game. Now, this one, I could see that as well. Yeah. I felt like I knew what I was doing. I just couldn't get the cards I needed to do what I needed to do.
Right.
But I was building my economy. I had done an idea that was really going to benefit me. I was getting 3 or 4 extra coins every turn. I was on my way. Man, over here, if somebody's bad at France, it's really bad. Yeah, it's if anybody can be bad at this game, it's the Ottomans. If you have a bad Ottoman player,
I don't think that's true.
I'd rather have a bad Ottoman player than a bad...
I think you could have a bad English player and get away with it.
Yeah, maybe.
Because at least half the game they're doing their own thing anyway.
Sure.
But...
Yeah. And I'm a bad player.
Yes.
There are times I'm a bad player. I get it.
I love Here I Stand. Here I Stand is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
So, this would not replace this for me.
It's just too long.
Yeah.
It's just too long.
I love the theme of Here I Stand.
Yep.
I just think it's such a fascinating period. I happen to know a pretty decent amount about it anyway, and so playing a game of it is always interesting to me. I'm always super engaged, and it's a very focused game. Mm-hmm. You are playing the Wars of Religion for that 40 or 50 year period.
Actually, I would disagree with you. It's not a focused game because there's everything in the kitchen sink in it.
But
there's the New World, there's the religious war, there's but it's just got everything.
But it all works together well. It's in this tiny sliver of time.
I would agree.
And that's what you're doing.
But the Protestants and the Catholics, the papacy, are kind of playing their own game and affecting everyone else as well. Everybody else is kind of playing their own game. So there is some of that. But I think it works well.
It works
well. I love that game.
Whereas this, the Wars of Religion are like...
It's just abstract.
A struggle...
To a state religion.
A struggle for power card, and it's not there.
No.
The scope of this game means that the theme is diluted.
Yes. Well, I think the way the religion works here is if you take over areas and you start mixing religions, you have unrest, I think. You have unrest. And unrest leads to rebellion. And rebellion leads to the loss of control. So you got to work on that. You got to work on.
And so you get the administrative cards, which has the man of the church to convert. If you
help
control
that,
everyone, you can convert this.
Convert them.
But yeah, I felt like I was just kind of a big blob of yellow in this.
Sure.
It felt less.
I was a big blob of blue.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like in this one, I know all the different names of the people on the cards, and like I know what they did in history, and like we're playing through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
To me, I like the detail because it's less of a wide open.
There's some of that in here though too. When you get your leaders, your specific good leaders, you feel that historical because like Ivan the Terrible, I got him in that 3rd or 4th round, and man, all of a sudden I was a real military power. I mean, I could do some things. So I think there's some of that in here. It just stands out a little more.
Yeah. But and that's just because it can, because it's not trying to cover as much. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this game. To me,
I would play this one again, but it's going to have to be with the right group, the right people, the right place, the right time. I'll play this game at any time. Right, yes. I just need a whole day, but I'll play that at any time. Yeah. We'll play this at every major con that we go to. I'm not sure we will play.
Yeah, if you ask nicely and we got the time, this is happening.
And we just got to find 4 other people that play with us. 6-player game is where it's at.
Yes.
So I also want to say though, there's some neat things in here. There really is. Yeah. It's just the juice is probably not worth the squeeze. Is what I would say about this.
The side of the box on this one says 90+ minutes, which... Where
does it say that?
Right there.
Oh, well, that's a lie.
That's like dishonest.
Yeah, time. Is that hours? 90+ hours? It doesn't say minutes.
90+ hours, you might finish the game. It's not that bad. But like...
I don't think you're too far off.
What are you doing in 90 minutes?
Nothing. Setting the game up. It took us 2 hours to set the game up and get clear on stuff.
What are you doing?
This game takes you 40 minutes.
What does this say on it?
I don't know.
It doesn't. They didn't even put
Really?
it on. Yeah, it's the 4 years per turn where it should be the length of the game, but they don't
Got
say
it. 10 to 12 hours is what Here I Stand is.
So yeah.
And it can be played quicker with an experienced group.
Yeah.
7 to 8 hours.
And there's a lot of auto win conditions. Well, not a lot, but there's some auto win conditions and things like that.
They're very hard to get. Once people start seeing you're doing that, you're going to get dogpiled.
But this game doesn't have any auto wins.
Got it.
Which is like, you will play it to the bitter.
You will play it to the end.
But yeah, anyway, this was a conversation that come up a number of times of kind of comparing these two, and this one killing this one, because this one's been around for a long time, and this is kind of a new thing. And I just thought it would be fun for us to share our thoughts on what that's like, having finally played this one. So hopefully you were able to glean some of the comparisons between the two, what might fit to your tastes and what you have available for your groups and things like that from a time and commitment and resource standpoint. But yeah, for me, it's a thumbs up here.
And I'm over here too.
It just kind of
And to make it better, there's another game called Virgin Queen that's awesome as well.
And they're coming out with a prequel for it too.
Called Tanto Monta.
So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. But here I stand. Come on.
Yeah. Well, that was a good one. You worked that one in. You've been thinking about that all night.
I before we even turned the camera on, I had that in my brain of like, I've got to get it in there.
You're such a ham.
But yeah, hopefully that comparison was helpful to some people.
Yeah.
And you can see better about what it's like with these two if you've not played either of them.
Tell us how we're wrong. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to debate and discuss. I don't believe that we are, but we're more than willing to listen to your opinion and have some interaction.
That's just like your opinion, man.
No doubt.
So appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.